Ladies and gentlemen, this is day 21 of the recent Russian invasion, and this is the 9th year of the war. And on behalf of Media Center Ukraine, I would like to welcome all those journalists who cover our fight for freedom, whether you are watching us right now online or you are physically present here at this venue in the free and unbroken country of Ukraine. In a minute, Minister Galushchenko will join us to update you on the Ukrainian nuclear plants in particular and the Ukrainian energy sector in general. And I will use this moment just to draw your attention to several important topics that we are following closely today. Of course, we are following the situation at the battlefields around the country. Several Ukrainian cities have been under shelling in the last 24 hours. So this includes Kyiv, which was shelled this early morning. Around 1 hour ago, there was a Russian fake news attempt to attack Ukraine. They were trying to present fake news that President Zelensky encouraged the Ukrainian armed forces to lay down their arms. So many of you have already seen the recent video which was immediately posted by the Ukrainian president, who said, the only people whom I'm going to address with these words, lay down your arms, are the Russian troops. So our president and our armed forces remain very confident about what they're doing, and they will fight to the victory. At 3 p.m., President Zelensky will address the US Congress, 3 p.m. Kyiv time, 9 a.m. Washington, D.C. time. And we are following closely the situation with the humanitarian corridors around Ukraine with not much progress. And now, without further ado, I would like to turn the floor to Minister German Galushchenko, who is with us to update us on the recent situation. Пане міністре, я попрошу розпочати із ситуації на
Dear Mr. Galushchenko, could you please give us an update about the nuclear power plants, because this was a very concerning issue over the previous few days. Thank you very much. The situation in NPPs is really dramatic. We already mentioned that this is nuclear terrorism perpetrated by the Russian forces, and what's happening right now, so the personnel of Chernobyl power plant, nuclear power plant, has been taken hostage. It's a very dangerous situation, taking into account nuclear safety and security, not only for Ukraine, but also for Europe and the whole world. We monitor the situation. We are in close coordination with the EU, United Nations, International Atomic Energy Agency. We say that this is unacceptable. You know that Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant was shelled by tanks and mine launchers. So there is nothing to comment here from the viewpoint of common sense. But what happened yesterday, when a lot of projectiles was collected at the station, so they did not explode. They were taken outside the perimeter of the station next to the training facility, and there they exploded it. So it's either sheer lunacy, sheer craziness, because they don't understand what they deal with, or this is deliberate pressure that they keep putting on the personnel of the nuclear power plant and the facility itself. Therefore, the actions of the Russian troops they have regular character, and the servicemen that are currently at the nuclear power plant, so it's around 400 people. They also have equipment, weapons, and machinery in the perimeter of the nuclear power plant. This is violation of all possible international rules, regulations, and conventions, as well as international agreements. But I understand that we cannot appeal to the Russians, asking them to comply with the norms of international rules and regulations. Therefore, we appeal to World Association of Nuclear Operations. Could you please give us more specifics? Which nuclear power plants are we talking about? So this is Chernobyl, this is Zaporizhia, NPP, and we also know that there were attempts to attack Pivdeno-Ukrainska nuclear power plant, which was successfully protected by armed forces of Ukraine. There was also information that Kanivska hydropower plant can also be the target of attack. The facilities of energy supply system, are they the target of the Russian armed forces? You're absolutely correct that there were some advances made towards Pivdeno-Ukrainska NPP. But I can assure you that it's in operation. This NPP is in full operation, and there are Ukrainian military forces that are staged there so that they can take timely action and protect the station. The key thing is that such attacks and advances not only can be done by the infantry, but also by the air forces. So they can be shelled, missiles can be launched. That's why we appealed to the whole world. Personally, myself, I am in constant communication with the Ministry of Energy of G7, and we say that taking into account the geography and the location of nuclear power plants in Ukraine, we need to close the skies over Ukraine because it will make sure that Ukraine is safe in terms of nuclear safety and security, because people keep dying on daily basis. Little has been done, but because of nuclear safety and security issues being threatened, it's absolutely important to close the skies. Two stations are in the west of Ukraine, one in the south of Ukraine. We also need to take into account the fact that Zaporizhia NPP also has the spent fuel storage facility. Chernobyl NPP also has spent fuel storage facilities. And the question is how well protected they are from missiles and shelling. Because we have spent fuel there, and should any physical damage be caused to this facility, then it's going to be nuclear disaster we have to be very well aware of. Let's move on to questions. Igor Bralyan, Inform Agency. What is the updates of gas transmission system? What is the current condition of the gas transmission system? And which gas pipelines are you using to deliver gas to Europe? And what is the security and safety situation there? The transit keeps working, and we have the information that some gas distribution stations have been captured by the military, Russian troops. We are now monitoring the situation. We are really concerned about the gas transmission system that is delivering gas to our consumers. Unfortunately, as of today, 150,000 consumers have been cut off from the gas supply network. And there are some difficulties renewing the gas supply because of the active hostilities going on in certain areas.
Associated Press, can you give us more detail about the condition of the staff at Chernobyl and at Zaporizhia? For instance, Are they able to get adequate rest? Are they eating well? Are they able to perform their duties adequately, or are they becoming tired?
Thank you very much for this question. To be honest, the staff of Chernobyl NPP, they've been there since day one of the active hostilities of the war, because the station was captured almost immediately. You're absolutely right that physically these people are on the verge of exhaustion. The situation is very, very complicated. Same thing about the Zaporizhia NPP. So the first shift that was working there, so they were there for 7 days or so. They didn't have a possibility to go home and rest. And we also have to take into account that besides physical exhaustion and psychological exhaustion, so there is also moral pressure that is constantly put on them, because they are working, there are people who are armed and they are putting enormous pressure on the employees. And Zaporizhia nuclear power plant is 6 times bigger than Chernobyl NPP. And this should send a clear message of what responsibility lies on the shoulders of the employees of this NPP, I mean Zaporizhia.
Minister, the insider, I would like to ask you, how can you estimate the impact of the war on the European energy market and especially gas market? Thank you.
I already mentioned that earlier during the meeting with the G7 ministers. My understanding is that the market is not going to be the same ever. It's never going to be the same the way it was before the beginning of the active hostilities. And I'm not only talking about the gas transmission system and the scope of transmission and the resources that have been used, but we have clear understanding that monopoly and the possibility to use any kind of commodity, in this particular case is gas as commodity, is not possible, because some people are using it to get political dividends, and it's a big threat to have monopoly regarding one type of commodity. And there are some claims from our partners that they are going to change their approaches. For example, they will diversify the distribution systems when it comes to gas and coal, charcoal supply. And I think that war, unfortunately, very much unfortunately, has a tendency to accelerate certain processes that were begging. And I think that the change in energy strategy is going to be imminent. What is the response from International Atomic Energy Agency given the recent events in Ukrainian NPPs? We are in constant communication with our regulator. So this is the inspection of nuclear regulation of IAEA. We even made common calls, common appeals. We keep communicating and we keep asking in order to secure and save the nuclear power plants. We have to withdraw the troops from the territory of facility, and this should be made very clear by International Atomic Energy Agency. There should be demilitarized zone around each NPP. And the third important thing is that the personnel should be able to have a possibility to provide their to do their daily job and daily duties. They have to work in shifts. They have to take rest. They have to meet their human needs. We definitely would want a much faster, much quicker response and much more assertive response to towards what's happening in Ukraine. When we are talking about the effect for European energy market, will there be any effect because Ukrainian energy sector is not working in full scope? There are physical obstacles. Speaking of effects, I think that we might do some calculations, and soon we will know how badly it will be affected. But it's clear as of today that European market has already changed after the beginning of the aggression. Ukrainian energy system, how safe it is given the conditions, the current conditions? It's a very good question, and I keep answering this question in the same way. From day one of the war, from midnight, Ukrainian energy system was working in isolated mode. And that was according to our plan of synchronization with the energy system supply of EU. So we started working in isolated mode, and at 4 a.m. the full-scale war started. So at 5, basically, the first shelling took place. So the system works in isolated mode until today, and regardless the terror perpetrated by Russian troops, including the fact that they capture our NPPs, they threaten our NPPs in Novakakhovka, in Zaporizhia. The system keeps working. The system is operational. We provide enough electricity to our consumers. We always insist that we don't need to cut down on the consumption of electricity because we have reserves, and the system proved that it is operational and efficient. If there are any other questions, please raise your hand. I understand that you just left the meeting of the Cabinet of Ministers. Were there any decisions made that are important for us to know and for the journalists to know? We work 24/7, and numerous decisions were made, so I don't want to waste your time and talk about all decisions. So what is the atmosphere, general atmosphere and morale of your colleagues in the government of the country which is currently at war? We are all determined to work, to keep working. We are all determined to win. And we all know what we are supposed to do, where we are. And believe me, we work as one single mechanism, very cohesive team, very coordinated mechanism, whose main goal, main objective is victory, which I'm absolutely confident of. Thank you very much, Herman Galushchenko.
And I'll encourage all the journalists to stay here for the next briefing, which will be at 3 p.m. And we are going to meet here in person Stepan Kuibida from the Lviv Regional Military Administration. And Mr. Kuibida is specifically responsible for economic issues and economic developments of the region. And please do stay in for the briefing alerts. We expect a couple of high officials available for your questions within the next couple of hours. So please do subscribe to our Telegram channel for the briefing alerts. Stand with Ukraine. Ladies and gentlemen, we will start our next briefing momentarily. And in a minute, we'll be joined by Stepan Kuibida, who works in the Lviv Regional Military Administration, and he is the director of the Department of Economic Policy. So this is someone who now can update us on the economic situation here in the region, how it has been affected by the Russian invasion, and what is being done in the region to accommodate those new challenges. The briefing will be conducted in Ukrainian. Those of you who need translation, please find your headphones, and there'll be a chance for each of you to ask your questions. Without further ado, please meet Stepan Kuibida.
Good afternoon, dear ladies and gentlemen. I'm grateful for being here today and having a chance to talk to you about Lviv region, its economic policy. I will be brief and laconic, and I will be talking not only about the economic policy of Lviv, but also about the things that we do together with the national government of Ukraine. Today we are at war. People die. There is a lot of destruction. But armed forces of Ukraine are doing their best in the front line. And we also have to do our best to make sure that economic works. Economics of the region, economics of territorial communities, economics of Ukraine in general. Western Ukraine and Lviv region in particular became the center for humanitarian aid. Together with multiple volunteer organizations, we arranged a number of warehouses and humanitarian aid centers where we collect humanitarian aid, sort it, and further dispatch to the east and central Ukraine, to the regions, to the destinations where there is a dire need in such humanitarian aid. I'm grateful to our international partners who have been very actively involved in humanitarian aid process, and I want it to be a continuous process because it's absolutely needed today. But today I'm here to talk about the economics of Ukraine, to share some of the updates, some of the plans, some of the perspectives, prospects, and current state. With the support of the Ministry of Economics and the Ministry of Infrastructure of Ukraine, we managed to relocate a few industrial facilities, quite a few industrial facilities from central and eastern Ukraine where there is active hostilities. Businesses from central and eastern Ukraine sent us relocation requests to relocate their industrial facilities to the western Ukraine. The main objective of the Department of Economic Policy is to make sure that we organize smooth communication and coordinated action to make sure that this relocation is smooth and trouble-free. We have received 160 relocation requests so far that have been processed. We have provided offers to those businesses willing to relocate. 90 of them took the decision. They are positive that they want to relocate to Lviv region, West Ukraine. They want to relocate their industrial facilities, industrial capacities, and start working here. We are grateful to the Ministry of Infrastructure of Ukraine that are helping us with logistical process, because it's not easy to relocate industrial facilities, machinery, equipment, and employees. But we are doing it, so that's something that does not deter us. The companies and businesses that would like to relocate, we provide them a lot of offers, not only in Lviv, but also Lviv region. We have a clear understanding that if you are in central or eastern Ukraine, the regions where there is active hostility, it's not always easy to take a quick decision. Therefore, together with our colleagues, we have prepared warehouses that temporarily can be used for industrial facilities before the business or the entrepreneur understands where he would like to base his facility, his business. We have very good communication with all service providers of Lviv region, and we are providing well-rounded support. The Department of Economics have a very good experience because we've been involved in a lot of different projects of different scope, and we understand what sort of problems such businesses might face, technical, organizational, communication, you name it. We are ready to provide this support, and we feel the support from the Ministry of Economics and the Ministry of Infrastructure. I understand that the information that I'm sharing is probably not well known, not widely known, but I'm here today so that the businesses that are in the active hostility areas know that possibility exists, the offer is on the table, and we emphasize that if need be, you can always relocate your business here. Relocating your business is not easy because you need to take people, your employees, you need to put the operational process on wheel. There might be a lot of issues of logistical, with logistics, with raw materials, with markets, because all those aspects could be problematic. I'd like to talk to our international partners using this opportunity. Dear friends, we are grateful for humanitarian aid that you are providing. We cannot overestimate your generosity. We will be grateful to you every day, every minute of our life. Today I started off my speech by saying that armed forces of Ukraine are doing their best in order to win this war. But we also have to do our best. That's why I call on great international funds, transnational companies, European Bank of Reconstruction and Development, European Investment Bank, and all international organizations that know what it takes to do business, to resume business, or to start business from scratch. Sometimes we do have to start business from scratch. We need financial support for the businesses. We need technology transfer. We need cooperation. Ukraine and Lviv region in particular, back in the 90s and 2000s, proved that it's the industrial area. We have a lot of industrial facilities, less complex, more complex. They are actively working in the territory of Ukraine, but it's not easy to make sure that they are in full operation as of today. But we exert all efforts to make this possible, to make this happen. Unfortunately, this challenge is not easy. We also need your support. We are ready to cooperate. We are ready to work together. We have fantastic intellectual resource. We have fantastic human resources. These people know what to do and how to do their work well. So our brain remains here, and our leadership proved to be very decisive and brazen during the war. Today, we prepare appeals to different institutions that I had mentioned earlier, and we will be requesting your assistance. As I had mentioned earlier, Lviv is the center for humanitarian aid and economic activity of Ukraine as of today. Hopefully today and in the future we will manage to address all the challenges successfully, but we definitely need support and cooperation with international partners. We are open for any type of cooperation. Unfortunately, we cannot afford anything else but work 24/7. Therefore, this is the third time that I reiterate that we need cooperation, we need your support. I want maybe to organize a round table meeting or maybe virtual meeting and talk about the possible trends for cooperation because we have a lot to offer. And I want to be heard today. Thank you. If there are any questions, I'm ready. Are there any questions? I just wanted to add that Media Center of Ukraine is another good example of public-private partnership because we started this center from initiative group. There was a media community that initiated creating this media center. Now it's coordinated, our activity is coordinated with the President of Ukraine, with the Lviv Oblast military administration. We are hosted by FEST holding, and that's another proof that Ukrainians can be united and they can work together in order to meet common objectives. I know that there are around 200,000 temporarily internally displaced people who arrived in Lviv. What does that mean for the economics of the region? And how can Lviv and Lviv region use this additional human resource, this power, this brain? Lviv became shelter for internally displaced people. Speaking of social and administrative infrastructure that has been used to meet the needs of internally displaced people, so I have statistics as of today, 9 a.m. We offered 170,000 beds to such people. I'm talking not only about Lviv, but also Lviv region. We do not count people who host refugees in their homes, in their private apartments. I believe that we can multiply this figure by 2 or 3. So this is for sure how many people we have hosted so far, we have sheltered. We understand that working with these people, first of all, requires psychological support. Personally, myself, visited central railway station of Lviv, and I saw those people coming to Lviv by trains. They are traumatized, they are scared, they've been through a lot. They are seeking help. They don't know what they're going to do next, and Lviv region is there to help them. There are a few things that we do in order to help these people. First of all, we take care of their daily comfort, physical comfort. When we are talking about beds, it's not only a mattress, so it's a bed. It's a more or less cozy bed where people can spend the night. These people have access to toilet, shower facilities, and meals. They are provided with meals. But we also understand that there is additional load on our infrastructure and the economy of our region. Therefore, we talked to representatives of vocational schools and employment centers. People who had to flee, who had to leave their homes, they probably failed to grab their passport or their employment record book. That's why these employment centers have to register them and find possible jobs for those people. They can be employed by the existing industrial facilities of Lviv. Our economy is very diversified. Those could be the companies that I had mentioned earlier. And also, we can offer them jobs in companies that relocate to Lviv. I mentioned 170 relocation requests that we received, but I think that this is not the top limit. So these are 170 requests that we received in 3.5 days. I believe there will be many more of such requests, such companies willing to relocate, and they will definitely need human resources. They will need labor. Another thing is that our municipal utility services also take additional load, but there are always jobs there, and these people can also be employed. They can also be doing some work and getting some remuneration for that. We understand that this labor force might need requalification or upgrade or advanced qualifications or additional knowledge. I mentioned vocational schools and vocational education. We have quite a network of vocational schools in Lviv. To be precise, we've got 41 schools. They can provide training courses for people who are relocated. Therefore, I'm talking about this triangle of cooperation: science, vocational schools, government, and business. So we can all work in a synergy. We have a few specific cases, for example, when businesses approached us and vocational schools responded and they offered training courses. So far, we don't get many requests for additional training courses, but I have intuition that there will be many more as time goes by, because companies who are willing to relocate to Lviv, they will have to move physically here and start their industrial process. Do you have any questions?
Here from Phoenix TV Hong Kong. Actually, I've seen how united your people in the cities, no matter they are local residents or fled from some cities or towns from the east, especially from the Russian-speaking villages. But I wonder, so do you think the people will feel worried? They will never ever go back to their hometown because the hometown will become the desert when the new economic policy come to be effective. Thank you.
Я розумію.
I understand that this war that is ongoing in Ukraine, it's not going to end overnight. It's probably going to take a while. I can't say for sure when, and I don't know if there is a single expert who can be brave enough to say when the war is going to end. Kremlin's policy is dirty policy. They are going to devastate our land. They are going to cause as much destruction as possible in our towns, cities, and villages. People live in fear. People try to flee, and it's understandable. The day will come when we celebrate our victory, and that will be the new beginning of economic policy, social policy, humanitarian policy, etc. Our focus will be to rebuild those cities and towns and villages so that people can go back to their homes. This challenge is going to be very difficult, because we will have to need to change the philosophy of those people, to knock on the door of their heart. It's not going to be easy. But there are regions in the west of Ukraine that are the centers for humanitarian aid, and they are also the economic area of the country. And this is our responsibility, not only to urge those people to go back, but also to reintegrate into the national economy. It's going to be our objective and objective of executive authorities, objective of business institutions, because we will have to go back and to rebuild those villages and cities. From the economic viewpoint, it's going to be costly. We are talking about hundreds of billions of dollars. Ukrainian economics is in a dire situation, and let's be realistic, let's be honest, we won't be able to rebuild our country soon. We will definitely need support from our European partners. We will definitely need support from our allies and donor organizations. If Ukraine manages to go through the open door, NATO door and EU door, then this support can be as timely as possible. We also need support from major transnational companies. We would welcome cooperation with us. We also need support from commercial mission, from humanitarian mission. From my subjective viewpoint, this is going to be the new page in our history. The government of Ukraine, together with the governments of other countries, will probably have to develop a new strategy of rebuilding and renewal of this strategy. In your question, you were absolutely right that this is going to be a desert. I understand, and my heart is bleeding when I think about those towns that turned into ashes. But you know how motivated Ukrainians are and how motivated our armed forces are, how resilient they are. Every citizen, average citizen, every civil servant is as motivated as the armed forces of Ukraine. And we want to rebuild our country to bring it from ashes into the prosperous country. Are there any other questions? Богдана Струк, Тут правда. What do you think is going to happen with the economic situation in Ukraine and Lviv region? So how is it going to be affected? Because small and medium-sized businesses might also relocate here, and it might affect pricing policy and economic policy. There are a lot of variables in your question. However, it's a good question. I'd like to address all variables. First of all, we will have a lot of technical issues once the company relocates here. So first of all, there will be additional load on energy resources, water resources, drainage, gas supply, etc. The network that we have today might not be able to bear the load, because early I mentioned that 170 companies already send their relocation requests, and I believe this is not the limit, and that will definitely be additional load on all municipal systems, and I'm very well aware of such challenges. We had talks with representatives of gas and energy supply companies, so we are already preparing to these challenges. Another challenge is legal aspects, consolidated registers, also employees. I believe that this issue is already being addressed by the heads of sector-specific departments of economics. The next is labor resource. We also talked about that a few minutes ago. First of all, we will need to change the philosophy so that people understand that they can not only be consumers of humanitarian aid, forgive me for my straightforwardness, but you have to become the subject of economics. You have to work, you have to contribute. Having said that, I'd like to make another focus that these people need knowledge and qualifications. Their knowledge and qualification might vary, and they might need to take additional training courses in order to meet the needs of the contemporary market. There will also be issues with raw materials. I understand that majority of raw materials were delivered from central and eastern Ukraine. Now we need to look for new supply markets, new raw materials markets. I try to be realistic, and I understand that we need time before we find new raw material markets. Another is just outlets or markets where the produce could be sold. I can speak about the economics of Lviv region. Our market was not Belarus or Russian Federation. Our market was European Union. We know how to export to EU. Every fifth dollar of the economics of our region is the dollar that was generated by export. We have a lot of business associations that are effectively working in this sphere. We know what is the business ethics, business culture, standardization, certification, etc. But export market will be difficult to win and enter because we know that it takes years to win the market sometimes. We also understand that investment is another challenge. But if we just say, please invest into our country, of course, no one is ready to do that because we are at war at the moment. So they will probably wait until the war is over, until we win this war. That's why we have to focus on our domestic market, domestic consumer market. I cannot provide you any numerous characteristics, quantitative characteristics, because it's turbulent, it's volatile. What was yesterday afternoon is not what we have today afternoon. Therefore, I started talking about changes earlier, and these changes are ongoing. But there is good news as well. Those people who are in the west of Ukraine, and west is the rear of our country, so they are quite cold-minded. I keep getting a lot of calls from businesses and my colleagues in the Department of Economics, and they say that, yeah, we need to start our operation, to resume our operations. We understand that we are not going to get profits we were getting before the war, but we are ready to reopen and provide services. We also receive the right messages from the government and the parliament. And President initiated liberalization of tax reform. I'm not going to talk about the details. You can read about that, so there are quite a few good things. But in general, the reform, we can call it liberalization of tax system, and it's basically the attempt to change everything, to turn everything upside down. The tax system that we have today, besides the taxes that people were paying regularly, like income tax, single tax, social security tax, so they were probably same as in EU money-wise. Now, the government proposes liberalization, and I believe this is not the last step to help our economics. If the system is going to be implemented in full scope, the business embraces it, and the country can work with that, then we can be proud of having one of the most liberal systems in the world. And that will be a good stimulus for our economics to develop. But as you probably know, each liberal system is just like weapons, so you can use it to protect yourself or to attack, so as defensive and offensive tool. I already voiced my concerns that we probably need to be careful because some people might start misusing it. Another thing is cooperation with our countries, neighboring countries, European countries, allies, transnational companies. If they understand that we are a reliable partner, which I hope we are, that will have definitely positive impact on our economics and things that I had mentioned earlier. In summation, there are a lot of variables in the system. They are changeable, but the government shows how professional they are, and they find a solution to each challenge. It's not easy to work the way we are working right now, and if it takes time, we will be exhausted. Therefore, all we need is peace and quiet. We need to close the skies over Ukraine. Armed forces will take care of the rest. I'm grateful to Stepan Kuibida, who represents the Economic Policy Department of Lviv Oblast Military Administration. Thank you for having me.
And please do follow our briefing alerts for tomorrow. I can already tell you that tomorrow at noon we'll have here in person Minister of Agriculture of Ukraine, Roman Lviv. He is going to talk about the food security situation. As you know, Ukraine is one of the major players in the grain export, in the grain market, in the global grain markets. So I think there'll be some thoughts on the global impact of the events happening right now in Ukraine. We'll also have Ukrainian parliamentarians who will tell us about the events in Strasbourg at the Parliamentary Assembly of Council of Europe. It's the institution from where Russia was kicked out yesterday. We will also have guests who will be telling about the situation with within the healthcare system of Ukraine and many other things. And while we talk, President Zelensky is completing his address to the US Congress. Thank you very much for today. Stand with Ukraine.